From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London in a week where it was confirmed that cricket at the LA Olympic Games in 2028 will be restricted to just 6 nations competing. It locks out the majority of the cricket world, including many from funding that they thought they might get from their country's Olympic committees. But in good news for those who will take part, well, a temporary ground is going to be built in Pomona, close to LA itself. So they will feel connected to the wider games. I think a lot of players thought they might be thrown out in New York or somewhere like that, but they will be close to LA.
Hi, it's Jim Maxwell. I'm in Adelaide and you can see dusk behind me in this dry and beautiful city. So I'll be here for a few weeks and hope that South Australia continue to celebrate their extraordinary performance in winning the Sheffield Shield for the first time in 30 years.
Disappointing news, Alison, about the Olympics, including only 6 teams. However, this is Charu Sharma for Akashvani. I'm in New Delhi, doing things that commentators temporarily not commentating do. I just hosted a sort of a conference cum felicitation ceremony for some real estate people in New Delhi, so I'm still here. And of course, the IPL goes on. And the separation this year seems to have come rather early, with teams winning a lot and teams losing a lot.
Indeed. No surprise to know that you're around and about the country, as always, Charu. But first, a significant development and a story that we've covered consistently here on Stumped. The International Cricket Council has this week announced that they're setting up a dedicated task force and providing funding to help displaced women cricketers from Afghanistan. Now, back in 2021, you'll remember the young women who were contracted to play for Afghanistan fled the country after the Taliban returned to power and effectively banned women from playing sport. The majority of the players went to Australia and wrote to the ICC asking for support, but were told that they were a matter for the Afghan Cricket Board, the very board that they were ostracised from. Nearly 4 years later now, the ICC say that they'll establish a dedicated fund to provide monetary assistance to the players and provide what they describe as a high-performance programme offering world-class facilities and advanced coaching. Well, the Afghanistan 11 captain Nahida Sapans told the BBC this is a huge step forward.
This will inspire Afghan women everywhere, and it show them that anything is possible with deduction, and they too can achieve their dream no matter the challenges. And my all-time message is always to them, you can make the impossible possible by standing up for your goals.
Well, none of this would have happened without the work of former Australia cricketer turned commentator Mel Jones, who was an integral part of getting the players out of Afghanistan. And Mel joins us now. Mel, I mean, we heard, Nahida's delight there. How have the other players reacted and how did you feel when you found out about this?
WhatsApp groups have been going off point literally 24/7 since it was announced, Ali, as you can imagine. I mean, a lot of the players, the passion they have for the game and just how much investment that they've put into making sure that if this moment came, that they're ready to go. And that's what they keep saying, right? And there's so many questions coming from them daily. Can we play underneath the Afghanistan flag? Can we keep our logo? Who are we playing? When are we playing? And unfortunately, at the moment, we're just having to say, just cool your jets, just be excited in the moment that things have shifted so sort of, extravagantly as well, because as you know, we haven't heard a lot back from the ICC over the last sort of 3.5 years. That has completely shifted in the last 48 hours, which is the best news that we could possibly have hoped for.
So do you understand or know why this turnaround from the ICC? Because, we had Jeff Allardyce on Stumped when he was chief executive and there just seemed no chance of support for the players officially.
Yeah, I've used the phrase, and I don't know if it's right, but the perfect storm. It's almost as if there've been so many different pieces just sort of, not sort of raising sort of a louder voice. I think they've always been there, but just a variety of different things. I think the fact that the Olympics and the IOC came out recently about the 6 teams for the men's and women's and sort of the process for qualifications and all that sort of came out. I think just the power of work that Pitch Our Future has done, the MCC Foundation have been absolutely brilliant. you can go back to the game on Jan 30 with Cricket Australia and all the work that Nick Hockley and the team at Cricket Australia had done to get that game up and going. So I think there was just so many different pieces. Even Kirsty Coventry coming in as the IOC president now, and her meeting with Jay Shah only probably 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and conversations had there. And as much as all these conversations have always been going, I think probably just different people in the room having slightly different conversations. And I think it was just, that little spark, and it sort of has grown from there.
You mentioned Pitch Our Future. So that was a programme that you set up to fundraise, to give the support, I guess, in the absence of ICC support. So how does this now fit with that? Do you know yet quite how this ICC injection will work? How will it work?
Yeah, good question. No idea as yet. Terms of reference are being devised at the moment, and having a chat to a lot of people who've been sort of in the process of moments like this outside of cricket through FIFA and FIBA and a lot of IOC organisations. You know, we've been getting people giving so much pieces of advice in and around that. We would love the opportunity to have a couple of players on that task force to ensure that the voices of the players are being heard in setting this piece up, because there's some really, as you know, Ali, some really sort of intricate, sort of unique situations for these women who have been exiled for 3.5 years. They've faced, a lot of different challenges, and would like to ensure that in terms of the high performance program, there are some of those challenges met underneath that funding as well. And we can do that through having people on the task force. So the task force still is being set up. The amount is still being negotiated at the moment as well.
I was going to ask about how much. Yep.
Yeah, we don't know at the moment. We sort of know from our budgeting of how much we were trying to fundraise for a high performance program, but that's from a high performance program just sort of sitting in Australia. Now that we have CA, the BCCI, the ECB and the ICC, sort of all putting up their hands over the last few years and now, that could look completely different. And the opportunity too of, does this team just play a variety of different teams like the team that played on Jan 30, or can they be put into qualifying programs in ICC events? So that's still got to sort of play out as well.
I'm sure relevant that the BCCI are on board in partnership with CA and the ECB with the ICC to deliver all of this.
So what's the ultimate aim? Do the girls realize that they may or may not be able to play as an Afghanistan 11? It could be, what's the nomenclature likely to be?
Really good question. I mean, that's been their dream right from the get-go. They were contracted players with the Afghanistan Cricket Board prior to the Taliban taking over. It was by no fault of their own that they had to leave Afghanistan, and then have now resettled in Australia, Canada and the UK. We can't forget those players there. And a reminder, it's not just the players, it's administrators as well, and coaches as part of this group. So right from that moment, they have always been vehement in their sort of drive to play as an Afghanistan women's cricket team. Now, my guess at the moment is that it won't be underneath the Afghanistan Cricket Board logo, but it could still be an Afghanistan women's cricket team, whether or not that's a refugee team or some sort of just change in the language there. But that is what they're really driving for, and that's where Pitch Our Future will be, right behind them in chatting to the ICC and the task force, and finding a way in which we can utilise, whether it's their new logo or a new logo that actually says that they are players representing Afghanistan.
And of course, you mentioned that you don't quite know what their match schedule is going to be, so I'm not going to grill you on that. But if you can move on to just reminding all of us the emotions that you must have felt when the last time we talked to you ahead of the exhibition match at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Can you talk us through that experience?
Yeah, look, roller coaster of emotions, isn't it? That was... The players say it was a dream come true, to sit in the change rooms and see them pull on shirts that they designed in Afghan colours, knowing that in their way that they were representing not just their group of players, coaches and administrators outside of Afghanistan, but 20 million women in Afghanistan who have, lost, human rights across education, work, health and sport. They're representing so many female Afghan players that have also fled and are all around the world at the moment trying to find their feet in a sporting world that's still trying to grapple with how do we manage this situation. FIFA's going through it, FIBA, as I just mentioned as well. And so for for some from the cricket world, we've actually, as much as we probably dropped the ball initially for those 3.5 years, we're probably a couple of steps ahead of the rest of the world and the rest of the world's sporting organisations at the moment. So we have this wonderful opportunity to be real leaders in sport and show a way forward with, the development of this team at the moment, and show other sports how it can be done.
And it is so lovely that this is now a good news story we've got from the ICC on this matter, and that the story now has a new impetus and a new direction. So I'm sure we'll continue to keep in touch with it here on Stump. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, and thanks for your ongoing support. It means a lot. It's I think for us, just keeping it relevant and keeping it in the sort of the minds and hearts of a lot of people certainly allows moments like this to happen. So thanks, team. Good work, Mel. Mel Jones, former Australia cricketer turned commentator on the Afghan women's story.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on Akashvani.
Finally on Stumped, the Pakistan Super League is underway and it's now in its 10th year. The PSL are planning to expand after this edition. They'll go from 6 to 8 teams. And just how important then is the competition for their domestic players? There are no Pakistan players that take part in the IPL. And this year it also happens that no players from Pakistan have been selected for the 100 in the UK either. Charu, just how important is it for Pakistan cricketers, in the PSL to be playing that competitive T20 cricket as well as the exposure that gives them?
Well, obviously, the commercials are nowhere near what the IPL brings in, but I can easily suggest, and all of us can understand, that this is huge for Pakistan to keep their cricket alive. For so many years, they haven't had much cricket at home, but the PSL, as you mentioned now in its 10th edition, is the centrifugal force to keep at least white ball cricket alive in Pakistan. There are many very talented players. So many have hit the ball a long way. The fast bowlers, the spinners, they've got people in every department. Where do they display their wares? Because, as we know, even other leagues don't at times take in Pakistan players. So the PSL is the big proving point. Now, that's where they all congregate. And I'm so glad that they're increasing it from 6 to 8 because they have that much talent. It's just the level of support because obviously a lot of the IPL owners are not supporting PSL teams at all. I just hope that their commercial circles increase in Pakistan so that all of them are compensated better. Regardless of that, though, it's huge in Pakistan, and I can understand how every youngster, not getting too many other opportunities, wants to be, if nowhere else, then on the PSL horizon.
Yeah, my social media feed is being flooded with action from the PSL at the moment. And Jim, at the national level, we've talked a lot on the show about issues that Pakistan cricket have had of late, whether it's chopping, changing of coaches or indeed on-field performance, especially after the Champions Trophy exit on home soil. Do you think that the lack of sort of global franchise cricket opportunities, and particularly the IPL, contributes to performance at the top level?
I think in Pakistan's case, it does, yes, and they need more opportunity to play. The question will just keep recurring with Pakistan, the lack of leadership, the disorganisation, the politics that goes on is a huge disruptor. And we've been saying on this show and watching Pakistan over a number of years, it almost seems an accident when they play well because all the other pieces that are moving around their cricket threaten to dismember their performance. And we've been seeing that in recent times. So they do need to have something that's important and is also successful. I hope that this can be the case because at the moment, Pakistan just seem to be more of an outlier in international cricket than they've been for a long, long time.
And the PSL is certainly an aspirational tournament, isn't it, for the youth, the young cricketers in Pakistan. It doesn't help the tournament, though, Charu, does it, when players leave to go elsewhere, such as we saw with Corbin Bosch, who's actually now been banned from the PSL for a year because he pulled out to go and play in the IPL instead. I mean, it's sort of an ongoing issue, isn't it, about players, ducking and diving between franchise leagues. Is a 1-year ban something, the IPL have implemented that, haven't they, for players who leave the IPL and go elsewhere? So, is it just becoming the norm? Is it a fair thing to implement?
I sure think so, because these are early days for many of the global leagues, and I'm sure the players are wondering, which side of the bread is better buttered. And I can't really blame Corbin, but and he must have known that he's going to be banned for a year. Of course, players have been banned from the IPL, as you mentioned, and even from the auction. If you put your name in the auction in the IPL and they don't turn up and don't play, you get banned for a couple of years. So I think the leagues will get tighter and tighter. They don't want players to make their selections about where to play, where not to play after choosing to play. That's not very professional, is it? Because once you make the choice, you stick with it. But I do think that the PSL is going to see more of this as these players get their opportunities in leagues that have better commercial circles. I keep going back to that because they are professionals. They do want to maximize their revenues. Although Corbyn, of course, hasn't played much in the IPL, has he, so far?
Yeah.
So it's a question of showcasing your talent. But the IPL is so big, and we've got to admit to that, that even just being around the dugout and showing what you can do in the nets probably will earn Corbyn a recall next year. So I think he's hedged his bets well. And I do think that commercially lesser leagues, will continue to see this kind of exit.
It was one of the issues, wasn't it, highlighted by the World Cricketers Association report into the state of the game that we featured on Stumped a couple of weeks ago, about just how to get more of a better structure for franchise cricket, for internationals, and to try and stop this, ducking and weaving between tournaments. Jim, one player who is playing in the PSL for the first time, a notable name, is David Warner. Of course, the Australian. He's captaining Karachi Kings, but he didn't make the best start with the bat. He got 12 and then a duck in his first 2 games. But, good opportunity for him with captaincy with his particular group of players now.
Well, I suppose so. I mean, the Karachi Kings will benefit from it enormously with his experience. Around this whole business of international cricket and franchise cricket conflicting, we have to find these windows soon because it just strikes me that 365 days in the year isn't enough for all of the cricket that we want to put on with its various formats, men and women, to fit in. So, yes, look, I hope David can find his niche and prove of value to those that he's leading.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped for Akash Vani. Don't forget you can follow us on X. We're at BBCWS Sport. Use the hashtag BBC Stumped so we see your message. And check us out on YouTube as well by going to the BBC World Service YouTube channel. Thanks to Charu Sharma and Jim Maxwell, and to all of you for listening. Speak to you next week. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akash Vani.